Hello, it's stage 8 of the tour, but the Honesty in Broadcasting Charter dictates that we should start with an apology for misrepresenting stage 7. We promised that yesterday's time trial would bring some clarity to the top end of this year's race. It didn't.
Oh, somebody's gone down here, and I think this looks like Bobby Julie. He's just going around this corner, dropped it, and went down very hard.
Ouch. This is Andreas Kloden. Well, he's the best time at the first check. The big question mark is, can he keep it by the time we get to the second check? Because none of the others have.
Here is Levi Leipheimer, and look at the time. Well outside of the top 60. He's going to lose himself, Phil, close to 5 minutes. That is not what you expect from a man who was thinking about winning the Tour de France.
This is George Hincapie. For once, George is riding for himself to win this race. He's not thinking of his best friend Lance Armstrong anymore.
He knows what it's all about, and I wonder if he's taken a slow start, but 52 seconds a loss in 16.5 kilometres is very difficult to turn around.
Another man that hasn't been able to deliver the goods today. This is a very strange race.
There's a possibility that Floyd Landis has had a flat tyre out on the course.
Landis slots in it with the second best time. He's ahead of Andreas Kloden. He won't worry about Sergei Honchar because that man won't win the Tour de France. Honchar races up to the line. He can see the clock. He knows every second counts. 1:1:43. Best time by an awful long way. And here comes Landis. He is best of the rest today. This has been an extraordinarily good ride by Floyd Landis, while most of the Americans seem to have slipped away today in some way or another. Second place for Floyd Landis. Honchar will now win the time trial today. His first ever victory on a time trial or any stage of the Tour de France.
At the end of yesterday's time trial, the new and somewhat surprise leader of the race, not least to himself perhaps, was the Ukrainian T-Mobile rider Sergei Honchar. And he's got teammates for company. In fact, the only non-T-Mobile riders in the top 6 now are Floyd Landis and the young German Markus Fürten. Michael Rogers, Patrick Sinkovitz and Andreas Kloden are all lined up behind their colleague Honchar, not necessarily to offer their support. Here's Michael Rogers speaking this morning to Matt Rendell.
Michael, a great success for the team yesterday. Have you digested that overnight?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, it was a good, really good result for the team. Obviously, Sergei with the stage win, had not a bad ride to finish in 4th. Probably analysing the race now, I started a bit too slow and lost a bit into that first time check, and I came home pretty strong. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the ride. Obviously, would have liked to win it, but that's life. And yeah, I mean, the team's over the moon with the result that the team did, certainly.
A week ago, it looked like the team had lost everything. Now it's got everything to lose. How long can you go before the post of leader is filled?
I think we're going to get through these next 2, or today, obviously. I mean, I think it will be another sprinter stage. Obviously, we've got the rest day in Bordeaux, and then another flat stage, and I think the tour starts for us. I think we're going to have to sacrifice a few guys because we've got too many guys there in classification. So our main priority will be hold on to the jersey and get through the Pyrenees as best as we can. And we need at least one guy up there. So I think certainly we have to sacrifice a few guys and get them out of GC so they can work.
Michael, there seem to be quite a few candidates. Who, to your mind, has the best claim to be leader as things stand?
In the team? I think Andreas Kloden's in good shape. My shape's good. Sergei's obviously in good shape. We don't know how he's going to get through the mountains. I don't know how I'm going to get through the mountains. We're hoping Kloden gets through the mountains really well. I really do see at the end of the race Andreas will be the leader. But you know, anything can happen in the meantime, and I'm sure a few surprises will come out.
We're not going to see one of those too many chiefs, not enough Indian scenarios.
No, I think we're going to have to make a decision, and just goes to show the team is performing really well and really strong. We come in prepared well for the race, and we're looking forward to the next stages.
And the Pyrenees is going to decide?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. You can't hide in the mountains.
Until then, it sounds as though T-Mobile will hide behind diplomatic language instead. They're not the only ones in contention, though. Australia's Cadel Evans is well placed, as are the Russians either side of him, Vladimir Karpits and Denis Menchov. Heading the race for the Discovery Team leader's job is Paolo Savoldelli. He's currently 13th. 4 places and 20 seconds behind is George Hincapie. Another minute behind him is Discovery's third possible contender, Jaroslav Popovic, and he's a couple of spots up on David Miller. Levi Leipheimer has a figurative as well as a couple of dozen actual mountains to climb now, having dropped to 62nd over 6 minutes back. Bradley Wiggins' solid ride yesterday moved him up 10 places to 147th. So, clear as mud, and likely to stay that way until the Pyrenees, because stage 8 is the last before the rest day. Tailor-made for a breakaway, and if the breakaway's caught, for a sprint finish. Well, there is today's route, 181 kilometres, starting from Saint-Méon-le-Grand, the birthplace of the great Louison Bobet, and finishing here in Lorient. Now, the early breakaway was interesting because in it were David Zabriskie of CSC, currently 2 minutes back in 10th overall, and Matthias Kessler of T-Mobile just 1 spot behind him. So perhaps T-Mobile were trying to lob another rider into the mix at the top to give them more options in the mountains. Floyd Landis's Phonak team obviously thought so, because they were leading the early chase. As we join commentary, the breakaway group is still out front on the run into Lorient, but their lead is coming down.
4 minutes 11 seconds now, Paul. There's a number of Française des Jeux riders got through.
Well, yes, I think they must believe that Bernard Eisel has got a very good chance of winning this afternoon. Let's not forget, it's almost a regional team, F des Jeux, because Marc Madiot comes from the Mayenne region, which is a region that we went through just the day before yesterday, and he will not be happy of seeing a breakaway like this that might succeed, and that could be the reason behind his tactics of getting the team organised on the front.
And the other rider from the Mayenne area is in the breakaway, and he made a big effort to reach it. Patrice Algon, the rider in the dark green shorts there, second off the nose on the left. 4:05 the gap at the moment, 47 kilometres. This is going to have to be a very tough organised chase, and if it doesn't start in the next 10 kilometres, they might not catch him.
Well, they might not. They need to really whip up the pace. But 1 or 2 people may not have heard of the name Sergei Gonchar or Honchar. Yep. Depends which newspapers you read. But in fact, going back to the World Championships about 6 years ago, they were right here on the course. They were on the circuit around Plouay. The man who won the time trial on that occasion just happened to be a man by the name of Sergei Honchar. Third in the under-23 time trial championships was Michael Rogers.
Yes, and Michael Rogers, of course, became the first senior world champion ever to come out of Australia. He's held that title now for 3 years. That's Juan Miguel Mercado, by the way, enjoying waving at the camera today. Well, I don't think he can be saying hello, Mum, because he's a Spanish rider, and Mum will be a long way away today.
But she will be watching it live on TV. You can actually be certain of that. Another little fact about Lorient, there was an individual time trial here in 2002. Santiago Botero, the winner on that occasion, beating by 8 seconds Lance Armstrong, and third in that time trial was Sergei Honchar.
Yes, he's no big surprise. He's a big gear thumper, and he usually sells out before the finish, but yesterday he'd never looked like selling out. It's an incredible performance. Still those 6 riders, 3:55. We're inside 4 minutes, and Française des Jeux are helping now.
It's Française des Jeux. If the gap does start to come down now to a more sensible level of around about the 2-minute mark, I think we'll see a couple more teams move to the front and start taking up the pace-making. Probably Team Lamprey, and then almost certainly Team Quickstep of Tom Boonen. Boonen really wants to win a stage here at the Tour. He won 2 stages last year. He won 2 stages the year before that. So far, he's had a successful Tour, I have to say, because he has worn the yellow jersey with pride. He did a very good ride in the time trial yesterday. There's our man at the back here, having a bit of a laugh, trying to see the front of the main field.
Well, the rider enjoying 1 or 2 laps there, Paul, is Ruben Labato, another Spanish rider on the same team of Britain's David Miller. There's Jerome Pinot. He'll keep that polka dot jersey to take it south to the real mountains of the Tour de France, and then we'll see how he gets on down there. He's ridden a very, very good race this last week, just to make sure he's got enough points in the bag to keep going on the podium every day. Very, very important for the French to have a man up on that daily winners podium.
And here's the sign indicating the lead of the team classification, and now it's no longer Team Discovery, it's actually T-Mobile.
Hi, I'm Floyd Landis. More from the tour after this break.
Today's stage starts and finishes in Brittany, one of whose most famous sons is Louison Bobet. Born in the start town of Saint-Mihiel-le-Grand on March the 12th, 1925.
Louison Bobet first won the yellow jersey aged 23 in 1948, but it wasn't until 1953 that he was ready to challenge for the overall victory. He sealed it on the great mountain stage from Gap to Briançon, attacking on the Izoard and finishing the stage with a 5-minute lead. It ended half a decade of foreign victories. In 1954, Bobet again used the Izoard to construct a brilliant win at Briançon, which gave him a 13-minute lead he would defend all the way to Paris. Soon after winning the 1954 Tour, he travelled to Germany for the World Championships. So soon after the war, his victory on German soil stirred French nationalism and made him a living symbol of France's post-war recovery. During the 1955 Tour, Bobet forced the pace on Mont Ventoux and emerged on the rubble-strewn desert of its heights alone. He reached Avignon with a 50-second lead over his nearest rival. It won him a third successive Tour de France. Louison Bobet lacked the natural talent of his rival Fausto Coppi, or his successor Jacques Anquetil, but his discipline and work ethic won him public adoration, something that Anquetil would never achieve.
In later life, Louison Bobet invested in saltwater spas at Quiberon, just down the coast from Lorient, and in Biarritz, where he later died just a day after his 51st birthday in 1983. A great ambassador for Brittany and a great Frenchman.
Still a very good, strongly knit group as we go over the top here of the climb of the Côte de Timarec. And then the riders will take a nice long downhill section to get into the outskirts of Plouay. Again, Calzati. Calzati has led over the top of all of these climbs here this afternoon. He will have picked himself up 16 points this afternoon. That's not enough to take the overall lead because that was still very comfortably on the shoulders of Jérôme Pinault, but he'll move up quite high in the classification in that race because with 16 points, that will probably move him up into about third place by tonight.
But fortunately for Jérôme Pinault, he can't get the race lead. Now, the pattern has changed here. They may have left it too late. There's a lovely shot of Brittany. It's a bit like the approach to the finish, actually, Paul, because we come down a little hill before we go up towards the finishing line.
Yes, a very complicated run-in.
So the race so far is still 6 riders in the lead. The main peloton just wondering what they are going to do. It is coming down now, largely to the work not of Phonak, but of Française des Jeux. They realized Phonak were holding the escape because they're afraid of Kessler being in it, but they weren't worried about catching it. Now the sprinters have got to take control.
Well, this is very much the heart of cycling here. Plouay is a great circuit. The riders not far away from the World Championship circuit from 2000, where on the road it was Roman Weinsteins who took the title on that occasion. The time trial going to Sergei Honchar. Michael Rogers was third in the time trial championships. The man who beat him, in fact, was Fabien Cancellara, and first place was taken by Evgeny Petrov. And all of those riders still professionals in the peloton today.
And very much so. There's the result of the mountain. It was hardly a sprint, but it gave Calzati a complete clean sweep of the mountains today. Algon second, Mario Hertz. Look at the speed of the riders now, just tickling 60 kilometers an hour. It's about 37 miles an hour these riders are racing just now, as they are now making their way towards Plouay, which is the area of those World Championships. I remember Jeremy Hunt too, the great British cyclist who winning the Grand Prix Plouay. I think it was only about 2 years ago.
Yeah, Jeremy Hunt over the last couple of seasons has really ridden well in Europe, and fortunately for him, he signed up for a team called Unibet, and they'd hoped to get the last slot for the Pro Tour teams, and they never quite made it, and they were hoping for a wildcard selection to the Tour. Maybe next year that might happen. But for Jeremy this year, he's been so close to a big victory, but not quite made it.
Very, very consistent, and it's so annoying. Some years it goes that way, but getting up in big races, second, thirds, fourth, fifths, sixth, tenths, but he couldn't quite, or hasn't yet, got the first place he's been looking for. But he's riding very, very well indeed in Belgium and the regions around Belgium at the moment.
So different team, different scenario, different tactics playing out now in the Tour de France. There's Michael Bogart in the red, white and blue jersey, and there you can just see the blue, white and red jersey, the national champion of France, Florent Barra, who was ecstatic to be in the breakaway the other day. He felt the only way to show off the French national champion's jersey was in a breakaway at the Tour de France, and I would have to say I think I would agree with him there. The gap now has dropped down to 3 minutes and 9 seconds, so FDJ doing a very good job. A lot of pink jerseys at the front. They're looking after the overall leader, Honchar, making sure that he stays at the front end of the main field. You might just see a blue helmet in about 5th or 6th position there. That is Christophe Moreau, and he's a rider who in the past has done very well at the Tour de France. This year riding for a new team, a slightly smaller team, but he rode well in the time trial yesterday to move himself fairly high up in the overall classification, and he will be hoping that over the next couple of days he will be able to pull himself up to a higher place when we get into the mountains. A couple of years ago he finished 8th in the Tour, and back in the year 2000 he was actually 4th. This is the sprint point, and this time it's going to be Karlström who will try and get himself the time bonus. This is Mario Ertz. He's a good professional athlete, Ertz. He'll be thinking and wondering whether or not they're going to get caught, because if they don't, the responsibility from the team will be for him to try and get the victory. They've got a very good sprinter on their squad, a man by the name of Robbie McEwen, who has so far taken out 3 stage wins, equaling his record of last year where he got 3 victories. This year he looks like he'd like to go a lot better, making for him a personal record and a brand new Australian record for stage victories in the single tour. Robbie already holds that record anyway, and I think he'd like to go one better. And the form that he's got here at the Tour de France this year is absolutely phenomenal. And I was talking to somebody the other day who told me that Robbie McEwen was seen out training in Belgium around where he lives in the town of Brakel, and he was training behind a motorbike, and he was actually trying to out-sprint the motorbike. That's probably where he's developed that incredible jump, and he's pulled himself right into form for the month of July, as he has done over the last couple of months, the last couple of years, to get himself spot on for what is probably the biggest race of the year. So Kessler now has desisted from working in that group. It's 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And I think Matthias Kessler in the pink jersey there must have been given the nod by the team. This is a tactic that which is completely acceptable in the sport of professional cycling. If you're a teammate of the leader, there's absolutely no reason at all why you should work to make a breakaway succeed, and that's how George Hincapie got himself a victory last year when we went down into the Pyrenees. Not something that any professional bike rider would like to do, but it can happen, and if it does, you take advantage of it, because you know that any other professional rider in the field do exactly the same thing under orders from the team manager.
Now, Paul, there's one Lamprey rider got in on the act now, apart from all of the Française du Jeu team in favour of Bernard Eisel, but I can't understand why Tom Boonen hasn't offered a rider from his team.
Well, I think he's waiting to see where, because his team has done the majority of work over the whole of the first week of the Tour. He wants to see that gap come down to the 1.5 or 2 minutes marks. You can see a couple of blue jerseys moving up over on the left-hand side, and they will wait, I think. The one reason Tom Boonen has lost so many races so far is because he's never really got his lead-out train sorted out. So he may well be today trying to rest them, because they know that this is going to be a very fast finish. It's a rapid finish downhill to the line here in Lorient. It's going to be close to 80 kilometers an hour, I would say.
Any news on the Chateau de Menehoun?
Yeah, this chateau actually has been in the same family for 5 centuries, from 1460 to 1985. It used to belong to the Pluvier family, and it was modified back in 1758, and was the addition made to it was they put a private chapel on the side, which is known as the Notre Dame of Sion.
I see Paul Sherwin knows everything. He does his homework at night. 36 kilometers to go. The gap is 3:24. Passing through the sprint here at Pluy. No sprint, of course, because up front the 6 riders have taken the prizes and the small time bonuses. The boys here from Française des Jeux having a little chat, saying, are we going to get this breakaway or not? Now, these riders at the back in blue are in fact the teammates of Tom Boonen, and they're at the wrong end of the race today. 3 of them here. There are 9 on the team. Boonen, Bet Your Life, is up near the front. They may be saying, look, guys, you need a rest, and he may have just told them not to bother.
Well, they're sitting at the wrong end of the main field if they want to help him down towards the end. I notice Matteo Tossato is not here. He's a final lead-out man for Tom Boonen. But I agree, he probably has said to them, guys, have a day off. We've done all the work so far. It's everybody else who needs to do the pacemaking at the front. We'll take the risk, because it is a risk riding at the back end of the main field, of taking control of the peloton inside of the last 10 kilometers.
Well, we'll see.
I'm Dave Zabriskie, and the Tour de France continues after this break.
Welcome back to ITV4. Our highlights package today, seeing the Tour de France arrive on the Brittany coast at Lorient. Well, we have had a lot of emails for Chris Boardman to answer, so the best thing was to bring him in out of the cold and give you the answers. So, Chris, first one. Number one from Colin Hales. As the riders are travelling at such high speeds, are they ever bothered by flies, wasps, bees, etc.?
Well, they are, and it bothers more than just them, actually. Gustav Larsson, when he came in yesterday with his face plastered with flies, I had to put my sandwich down. Perhaps on a more serious note, Jonathan Valters, back in 2001, I think it was, he had a wasp sting that's so severe to his face that the swelling caused him to abandon that tour.
Yes, I remember that. That was very sad. And let's go on to Brian Moore now in North Yorkshire. I'm glad you are mentioning the Lanterne Rouge. Is there still a private competition between the domestics to see who can keep that position the longest? That's for the last man who finishes the tour.
Yeah, the last place in the tour. I don't think it's something that's actively fought for, but there is a prize for it in Paris, and everybody remembers who finished first and who finished last.
All right. Ted Webb from Cornwall, watching the tour. I've noticed the yellow motorcycle that holds up the board. Can you tell me what this is for?
Well, the board basically tells all the riders the information on the time gaps during the race, and it's something that precedes the advent of radio communications.
That's right, and once you've told the breakaway, of course, you tell the main pack the same. There's no favourites in the Tour de France. Paul Fairfield in Liverpool. When a team leader crashes, a domestique will often give up his bike, but I've never seen the leader making adjustments to the saddle height, etc. Is there some quick method, or do they just make do?
Well, that's something that we've seen Ivan Mayo, for one, do already in this tour, and it's really the lesser of evils. It's either just to get you the last few kilometres to the finish, which was the case with him, or until other arrangements can be made and a spare bike can be brought up.
I do remember, Chris, the occasion when Eddie Merckx always carried a tape measure in his back pocket. If he changed bikes, he measured the seat and he had it higher or lowered. And the last question coming in from Dave. I'm looking to buy a new bike. Is there any advantage with the sloping top tube compared to the traditional horizontal top tube, or is it just fashion? And how much should I pay?
Well, I think the short answer to that really is fashion. It is all about fashion. It's a little change, swings and roundabouts. As far as how much it costs, well, you can pay anything from £600 to £4,000, entirely up to you.
All right, and I'll save Chris's blushes, but this man is still the fastest ever prologue rider in a Tour de France back in 1994. All right, well, let's get back to the current Tour riders out on the road.
These are tough roads to survive on, the heavy roads, and these riders escaped after about 46 kilometers of racing here this afternoon. There was an early break of 8 riders formed, and in that group was the big German rider from Team CSC, Jens Voigt, but that was pulled back, and almost at the moment that that breakaway was pulled back, another breakaway formed, and that was this group of 5, which was then joined after a long chase by Patrice Algon in the green and white jersey of Crédit Agricole. He saw how dangerous it was and said, mate, I want a little bit of that, so jumped across. Oh, it's coming down an awful lot more. 240.
Now, just as we see this, Paul, and just after a little chat at the back there with Gilles Carson, this is the first attack of the day. Now, who's going to react to this move?
Has to be Kessler. Normally, he's the man who's been sitting on the group for quite some time, but they've lost all momentum. That was Sylvain Calzati who went away, took off round the corner. Patrice Algon wants a bit of that as well.
Oh, yes, because he's the local boy. He's not going to work his way to catch the breakaway like he did and then be caught by the bunch. Surprised that Kessler's waiting much longer because there's no reaction from Mario Ertz. So now we've got Patrice Algon on the attack. Look at this. They've heard that the main field has started to chase. There's still around 30 kilometers left to go, so they've got to try and get the pace going up here. He's being chased by Patrice Algon, I'm a little bit surprised that Kessler just watched it all happen.
Well, I'm more than a little bit surprised, because the first time, yes, you can be surprised, but the second time you have to be alert and be waiting for the counter move to come. And Kessler wasn't boxed in. He was right in the ideal place. He was over on the right-hand side. He actually saw the move go. And I'm surprised he didn't jump on it immediately, because we saw in the first week of the tour, in fact, the first 2 days, he's got an incredible jump when he needs to.
2 minutes and 32 seconds. I think the move had to come because it was getting a bit lethargic up front. Here's the man who's caused all the problem here, Sylvain Calzati, who rides on the French AG2R team. He's just going to try and lift the pace. He would expect that somebody will try to chase him, but he's not going to wait for him because he's too critical right now. 2:37, so they started to nudge away again from the main field with that lifting of the place. Calzati's had a great time in the mountains today. In fact, he's won enough points to bring him into 4th overall in that competition, but he still stays a goodly way behind Jérôme Pinault, who will take that polka dot jersey to the Pyrenees now. Well, Algon has tried this. Remember, this is the man who had to chase to catch the breakaway, and he's given up. He's realized that he's not going to cross the gap on his own. He's had one victory this year, a race called the Route du Sud. He had a stage win. That's down in the region where we're actually flying to, Bordeaux now, after this race ends today.
Well, in fact, just one rider's come across him, and that's Karlström. Karlström has seen the danger. That must mean I'm really surprised about Kessler, because Kessler must have good legs. He wasn't working for the last 30 kilometers or so, and you would have expected him to be able to follow a move like this, or at least have been alert for it.
Well, this would be one incredible win for Calzati if he was to ride away from that breakaway and race to the finish. Algon needs a few deep breaths now to settle back in. He's been joined by a very willing Finnish rider in Kjell Karlström, who's 30 years of age now. And if they can get together, who knows, they might get up here. Kessler's mystifying. Maybe he's tired, or maybe he feels, why should he waste his energy? The stage win not so important now that they have the race leader on their team. There's our flotilla of motorbikes who have to scurry out of this, because these guys in the villages will go pretty quickly.
Well, these are the 3 riders who've been left behind. Zabriskie is there with Mario Arts, and of course with Kessler sitting on the back. They will probably get picked up quite quickly by the main field, who then all of a sudden might take less of an interest in chasing down, because they've caught the riders who they felt were dangerous, Zabriskie and Kessler, for the overall classification, and they may well cut off, but it might force then Robbie McEwen's team to come forward and scramble over the last few kilometers. But it's now starting to turn the advantage towards the attackers on this occasion. You might just have caught a quick time split there. The race is certainly very split up, and in fact the race situation is Calzati with about 29 seconds over the chasers, a further 16 seconds back to the 3 men who were originally in that group, and a minute and 42 back to the main field. Or a further minute 42, the main field at 2:27.
That's right. He's just gone past the speed camera there, but I didn't see it flash as he charges through this little village here. And he sees now that 25 kilometers ago, that's an awful long way still to race for a ride like this, about 40 minutes of racing. As Calzati knows now that he's got to do the time trial of his life. It took him over an hour and 5 minutes yesterday to ride the time trial. Now he's going to have to do it all again.
Ciao, sono Musica in Marzo e guardate Tour su ITV.
"15 kilometers to go here, 15 kilometers, and this man Calzati in the lead. And moments ago, the capture of half of the breakaway. Kessler, Zabriskie and Mario Ertz are back in the pack. Leaves this man on the highway about a minute and 10 seconds behind 2 chasers from the break, Algon and Karlström. And then the peloton. And now the chase is on, and I think they may have misjudged it. 2 minutes 33, the last time check.
Well, the main field is doing nothing to eat into the advantage of the lone leader. He's still holding on to that 2.5 minute advantage. He actually stretched it out a fraction. It has dropped a fraction. As much encouragement as the team manager can give there, they're not actually doing any job at all of closing in on Sylvain Calzati, and the main field have closed down.
He's doing the ride of his life. 2:34 now.
It's Bram Tankink on the front for Team Quickstep, and this I think this is the back of the pack for Tom Boonen. I'm just having a look to see what's going on there. If he's got a problem, he may well. He's got a softening front wheel. So a softening front wheel there for Tom Boonen. Once again, a mechanical incident for the world champion. Got teammates up alongside him. They will wait and pace him back into the main field, and that's another reason why it stopped. Wilfried Kretschen's there alongside him. He will wait, no panic. Watch how he does this. The team mechanic is up alongside. Quick flick of the lever at the front end of the machine, and that will allow him to change the front wheel in around about 8 to 10 seconds. So Boonen up and running. Mechanic will push him. He'll get his feet into the clips. Just make sure everything is perfect, and then ride back up through the convoy of cars. And very quickly he'll have a teammate alongside him. It was Wilfried Kretschens, the Belgian rider, who stopped, and he will pace him up to the front. But I think this afternoon the sprinters will not be having their day, because the breakaway is going to survive, because this man does not look like a man who is going to crack down towards the end. You can almost see that smile turning into a grimace, and the team manager there up alongside him, he realizes that this is a big opportunity for AG2R here this afternoon.
This is a counter-attack here to try and get somebody to make a move from the field. And this is one of the riders on Française des Jeux. Just a desperate move, because they sense that nobody is taking up the chase now. There is a reaction, that all will help. And watch that gap start to come down, but at the moment we're going up. Latest check I've got 3:05. I think this is Philippe Gilbert who is having a dig now.
Well, it's not a great move. He's trying to ride across a gap of 3 minutes to catch the lone leader. The only way to do it at this stage of the game is to have an organized chase on the front end of the main field, and I think everybody basically this afternoon has given up the ghost, and that's not surprising. We've had a very hard week of racing. We've had a time trial the day before. Riders looking at a rest day straight into the face. They got the calculations completely wrong here this afternoon, and they didn't expect that a man by the name of Sylvain Calzati would have enough pressure and enough diesel in the engine room to be able to go off and surprise the lot of them. Our man here, Sylvain Calzati, is in this big, wide, long boulevard before he turns off and into the outskirts of town, and then he will start to believe he's definitely going to win this stage. He looks down all the time. That's just to make him aerodynamic. You can see the pain. We can't see his eyes, but I know what they'll be telling us. He just wants to get to the finish. He just wants to get this over and done with. The pain level that he's accepting is being accepted because he knows now he's got possibly the chance of a lifetime for any professional athlete to get in the breakaway and to succeed. He's got 3 minutes and 5 seconds over the front end of the main field in 1:51. Back to the chasers. All he's got to do now is just keep that tempo going, keep the pedals moving at around about 100 revolutions a minute, and that will keep the pace up at around about 45 kilometers an hour. There you can see Gilbert, and the fact that he's able to ride off the front end of the main field and hold them for a few kilometers like this is an indication that they really not are riding in the peloton with 100% dedication. And he's just looking for indication. Well, I have to warn him that on the run into the finish inside of the last 5 kilometers, they hadn't been able to put up the kilometer banners at 5, 4, and 3 kilometers to go, because in the early part of the day the weather was absolutely atrocious. It was so windy and rainy they couldn't put in the installation, so they had to abandon that with the approach of the publicity caravan. But for this man, he will have a rough idea where he is. He keeps looking down at his handlebars, looks at his onboard computer.
There's the face of Sergei Gonchar. Quiet day for him, Paul. Routine. That's what he expected. That's what he wanted. He's completing his first day as leader of the Tour de France.
His team feel confident, and this team now feels confident. They know they've got the victory. You don't see that very often so far from the finish. All he's got to do now, Phil, is make sure he doesn't fall off.
Well, I tell you, this is a big moment now. I think his team boss has just told him here. I don't know whether he knows it's a grimace or cry or smile. I think the news was, look, they're not going to catch it. There's no race going on behind anymore. You're going to win the stage. Enjoy the last couple of kilometers.
Well, if you can enjoy it, you know, you really have to just keep the pressure on. You just have to keep riding. He knows he's got it, but it's still going to hurt for a few more kilometers.
But he can't afford a mistake, fall off with a flat tire, that's for sure. Sad memories of last year's Tour de France. He abandoned the race on only the 8th stage of the race, and the previous year he'd finished his first Tour de France in 71st. So he is a man now who's going to remember his 3rd Tour de France with a stage win at Lorient, his first ever win as a professional cyclist, actually crossing the line. I should think we're going to see some terrific celebrations here.
Well, it's completely different, Phil, winning an actual stage than winning a race overall. You don't get the same joy when they cross the line, because winning the overall is basically on the addition of points, and you're not sure whether or not You've won the race till you get in across the line, but winning in a race like this, and after a long breakaway, when he gets to the line, it's going to be an incredible explosion of joy.
Is it going to be an omen for the French as they line up for the World Cup final in Germany tonight, in Berlin, where they play Italy? A French winner of the Tour de France is pretty rare these days, I can tell you, though this year this is going to be the second stage win for a Frenchman. Remember Jimmy Casper taking out stage 1 of the Tour de France in a surprise sprint finish there.
Big surprise for Jimmy Casper in what was on that day a very dramatic victory, because just behind him we saw Thor Hushovd, the overnight leader, crossing the line covered in blood. In this situation we will see a man on his own riding down the final kilometre, and he will be waving to the crowd. He's not worried about winning the Tour de France this afternoon. He's 76th at the start of the day, 7 minutes down in the overall classification, but for him it's the joy of riding down the finishing straight all alone in front of a French crowd.
Well, all of the banners not erected on the freeway here, the autoroute, but once we swing off it we should see 2 kilometres to go. I'm approaching that now. We are about 2.5 kilometres from the finish of the race. It's very rare on the stage of the Tour de France you can start to think of the joys and the pleasures of winning the race. It's usually a desperate affair, and I thought that's exactly what it was going to be. But all of a sudden he got through the psychological section of the breakaway when the field realised there is now 2 kilometres to go. The field realised they'd let him go too far, and now the best attitude is to live to fight another day. He deserves his win.
He'll feel good now once he's seen that sign indicating 2 kilometres to go. He can translate that very quickly with his onboard brain, because he's going to tell himself, look mate, 2.5 minutes left to go. Get out of the saddle one more time. The pain is just about to stop.
Well, you know, Paul, I think if I was a Frenchman and wanted to win a stage of the Tour de France, this is where I'd want to win it, in Brittany.
Well, what a day for the French as well. What a weekend for the French, because, you know, they've already won Wimbledon with Mauresmo. They've got the World Cup lining up here this afternoon, and winning in Brittany is definitely a place to win for a Frenchman, because this is very much the heart of French cycling. This is where French cycling is at its greatest. It's produced some of the great champions, Bernard Hinault, Louison Bobet, whose town we went through this morning on the stage, and here this afternoon Lorient is celebrating the Tour de France. That little blue banner over the road there with the red kite underneath is going to be a sight for his sore eyes.
Well, Saint-Maine-le-Grand is where Bobet comes from, where we started today, and in fact he was a brilliant cyclist. He won the Tour de France 3 times. He would certainly have approved at the way this man chose to win today, breaking away with a group of riders at 46 kilometres into the stage, deciding they weren't going quick enough and they would get wrapped up. He decided to attack on his own a long way out, nearly 30 kilometres to ride. And then the field realised they couldn't organise themselves and they couldn't catch him. Sylvain Calzati may have won one bike race in his life. It was the overall classification. Now he's about to have, in effect, his first ever big win, and he's chosen stage 8 of the Tour de France.
You see that, Phil, a real professional look back, just to check, although he's had the time gaps, although he's been told it's 3 minutes, he wanted to make sure nobody was coming back.
Listen to the crowd. He abandoned in pain on stage 8 of the Tour last year. Now he's winning a stage of the Tour de France, and it's France's second stage win. Now, this might be a big tour for the French this year as they bring the curtain down on the first portion of the Tour de France. Then he's off to the airport now and a quick flight to Bordeaux to watch the World Cup on television. Is this an omen for France as Sylvain Calzati gets the win he richly deserves?
Going to be a long wait now to see the next 2 riders out on the road. I wonder if they're going to survive. The last time check we had, they had around about a 2-minute advantage over the they had a 2-minute deficit over Calzati, but they still had a minute's lead over the front end of the main field. But there is the stage winner this afternoon. What a great ride by him.
Yes, this is a good moment too, because now he can wait to see who finishes second and third, and that is the best feeling in the world, I think. Shaking his head there. He's on the same team, by the way, as the Australian Simon Gerrans, who won the Tour Down Under in Australia this year. He's in this tour as well this year. Now, the big question is who is going to take out the valued points for green jersey. This is the race. I'm surprised these 2 stayed away, but they have. And together they could not catch Calzati. Once Gilles Carlstrom came up to Patrice Algon, they still couldn't catch him. In fact, he rode away from them. these two are going to take major slices of green points away from the likes of McEwen, Bonin, Frère, Bernardi and Hushoft. Now, who's going to win this sprint? Because the Finnish boy at the back, he's never been near even a second place on the stage of the Tour.
I think Karlström should, because he's just sat on for about 500 metres. He's forced Patrice Algon to do the majority of the pacemaking at the front end of the main field. They keep looking over their shoulders. They are very worried about the return of the main field. But Algon is going to be forced to lead out the sprint. Karlström, I think, will come out of his slipstream, but if they're not careful and they play around just a little bit longer like this, they will see the main field coming down upon them. The main field would love to catch these two guys because there are still points available. And of course, Robin McEwen is only separated from Tom Boonen by 10 points. They need to battle it out. Every time there's a sprint, these guys have to go for it. These now are the two men trying to go out for second and third.
Patrice Algon, from lying in a street in South Australia in Adelaide in January, now dicing out a second place finish in the Tour de France. But Karlström has got one over him with a very special sprint, second, and there's the peloton right behind now. Who's going to bring this big Tom Boonen driving on the front here now with Bernardi, and Szarbo's trying to get through the middle, and McEwen gets it. McEwen has done it again. I will go for him by a centimetre.
Well, McEwen came very rapidly up through the middle there. I think the other riders just sat up before the line. Boonen led out from a long way. Boonen actually sat up once he saw he was beaten, but we'll have to have a look at that once again. Let's have a look. There's Boonen on the right. McEwen's coming up very quickly.
And quickly enough to take the sprint for fourth and increase his lead in the green jersey competition. No sprint necessary for the stage win, though. A great solo venture by Sylvain Calzati, with Kjell Karlström beating Patrice Algon in the sprint for second, and McEwen beating Boonen and everyone else at the head of the non-chasing bunch. Well, Jimmy Casper got the French off to a good start with a win on stage one, and now Calzati has come up with a bookend victory for the final stage before the rest day. And since it was the first win of his career, he was understandably pretty pleased.
C'est vrai, gagner l'étape du Tour, c'est fantastique. Je savais que j'avais la possibilité de la gagner, mais je pensais pas la gagner si vite. Et bon, bah maintenant, je savoure, et maintenant, quoi qu'il arrive, j'aurai réussi mon Tour de France 2006.
Sylvain, quelle force! Vous avez étendé l'avantage là.
Ouais, bah, de toute façon, quand on est devant, on pense plus à rien, on appuie le plus fort possible, et bon, ça a marché, et tant mieux.
Riding as fast as he could worked for Sergej Honchar yesterday. Today, all he had to do was sit in the bunch and soak up the attention that came with the yellow jersey. He spoke to Matt Randall.
No, sono contento davvero. Avevo tante tensioni da parte di giornalisti, da parte di gente. Ho sentito il mio nome per strade, sono contentissimo. Non capita ogni volta, mi vivo di questa gioia.
E qual è la situazione con la posizione da leader nella squadra? Nessuno sembra avere confidenza in te.
No, perché siamo, diciamo, abbiamo 5 corridori in primi di classifica, allora possiamo giocare di tutte le carte. Uguale per T-Mobile, uguale se Gonchar o qualcun altro di squadra indossa maglia gialla, è importante farla bene Tour.
Saranno i Pirenei a decidere chi sarà leader.
Penso decidano Alpi.
Well, it'll be an interesting rest day in the T-Mobile Hotel, given their domination of the top six. As he was this morning, Sergej Honchar is leading the Tour, but he has two major candidates to relieve him of that burden in the form of his own teammates, Michael Rogers in third and Andreas Klöden in sixth. If they all fall off, Patrick Sinkovits is the boss. While the biggest threat to the T-Mobile four-pronged attack remains Phonak's Floyd Landis in second place. Outside the top six, nothing of note to report, with the time gaps remaining the same all the way back down the field. So no real change in the overall standings, but Chris, we saw the first sign with David Zabriskie in that break today of the kind of shadow boxing we're going to get for the rest of this Tour.
Yeah, the GC is now starting to affect the stages and how they're ridden. It's not just about that result for that particular day. Zabriskie got in there, we saw Jens Voigt trying earlier on, which showed CSC are very much after stage wins here.
And T-Mobile put Matthias Kessler straight into that break. That was a show of strength, really, wasn't it?
Well, again, they were covering the breaks because that meant they don't have to do the chasing. They've got the jersey, so everybody would look to them, but not if they've got somebody in the breakaway. So he got in there, worked with the break, and then didn't contribute later on.
So how do you think things are going to play out once we get to the mountains, both within T-Mobile, where there's a bit of an internal power struggle, and in the wider race?
Well, T-Mobile, and their strength is also their problem, in the old saying, power is nothing without control. Well, they've got so many leaders or potential leaders there, they could end up not knowing what to do and dilute their possibilities. Discovery, well, I think they're going to start to line up now behind Savile Delhi.
Interesting competitions within competitions, and while we're on the subject, let's give you the result of our first week competition, because we have a result. We asked you, remember, who won the green jersey in the 2005 Tour de France. The answer was Thor Hushovd. Collinari of Penrith in Cumbria knew that, and as a result, he will be in Paris on July the 23rd to see the final stage of the Tour. You've still got a chance to be there too, though. We will be starting our new competition tomorrow in the rest day programme, which is wrapping up the race to this point. That's it, though, from Lorient. Hope you've enjoyed it. We will see you tomorrow for the rest day.
Once it is gone, it'll never come back again. Once it is gone, it'll never come back again. Once it is gone.